So while Andy participates behind the scenes, helping the prison officials launder money and filtering all their profits in a way that they can't be traced back and they won't get in trouble for this criminal activity. So he's helping them do this behind the scenes, and he knows all of their secrets and all of the sort of illicit criminal activity going on amongst the sort of powerful administrative staff of the prison system. So he's participating in a sort of indirect way by filtering all this money. And he has this discussion with Red on page 53 and 54 where he talks about the ethics behind what helping filter all this money and participate in this criminal activity. So he talks to Red about walking the sort of fine line uh, on page 53. So this is Andy's perspective of his participation. And he says, there's a fine line there. What it comes down to, Red, is some people refuse to get their hands dirty at all. That's called sainthood, and the pigeons land on your shoulders and crap all over your shirt. The other extreme is to take a bath in the dirt and deal any goddamn thing that will turn $1. Guns, switchblades, Big H, what the hell. So there are some things that Andy does not do, and that's sort of he doesn't support the drug trade that's going on, which some of the administrative staff is involved with. So they're bringing in drugs, and then the prisoners are using those. But he says to Red, he says, because guys like us, Red, we know there's a third choice, an alternative to staying Simon pure or bathing in the filth and the slime. It's the alternative that grown-ups all over the world pick. You balance off your walk through the hog wallow against what it gains you. You choose the lesser of two evils and try to keep your good intentions in front of you. And then he says, he sort of explains that he is able to help others by his sort of elevated status, his growing power behind the scenes. He says, but I've also got the library, and I know of over 24 guys who've used the books in there to help pass their high school equivalency tests. Maybe they'll get out of here, they'll be able to crawl off the shit heap. When we needed that second room back in 1957, I got it because they want to keep me happy. I work cheap. That's the trade-off. And as well, he has his private cell, so Andy, unlike the other prisoners, lives alone, and that's the way he likes it. And he's able to sort of maintain this single cell because of the trade-off he has sort of developed by being a necessary part of the income stream of the prison warden. So Andy's able to sort of use his position of power as the kind of financial wizard behind the scenes, but he does so in a way that helps the other inmates. So by sort of developing the prison library, Andy is giving back to the other men and helping them improve their lives, unlike the warden or the guards who are just very self-serving and out to make a buck. That's not Andy's goal here. So on page 49, we get some insight into Andy's personality and his determination. So he's able to transform the prison library into one of the best in all of this area. So he says, Andy succeeded in Brooksy's job, and he was the librarian for 23 years. He used the same force of will I'd seen him use on Byron Hadley to get what he wanted for the library, and I saw him gradually turn one small room into the best prison library in New England. He did it a step at a time. He put a suggestion box by the door and patiently weeded out all the sort of suggestions that weren't serious, and then he began to write to the state senate over and over again until they sent him money. So he requested $200 at the start, and then after repeated attempts, they started sending him money like clockwork. So Andy's requests for library funds were routinely turned down until 1960 when he received a check for $200. The Senate probably appropriated it in hopes that he would shut up and go away. Vain hope. Andy felt that he had finally gotten one foot in the door and he simply redoubled his efforts. 2 letters a week instead of one. In 1962, he got $400, and for the rest of the decade, the library received $700 a year like clockwork. So through his determination and persistence, Andy is able to uh, use this money that's given to him from the Senate and develop the library within the prison as the best in New England. And then he's giving back and helping the other men improve their lives through this library. So he's helped over 24 prison inmates gain their high school equivalency tests. And in this way, he's giving them hope for their future so they don't get stuck in this cycle of crime where you see a man, get released and then commit another crime and just return to prison over and over again. He's actually helping them by giving them lifelong skills and education, which will hopefully help them improve their lives in the long term. So unlike the prison staff, which is very much sort of on the surface, it sort of touts itself as a system that rehabilitates men. Andy's actually not all talk, right? He is actually improving the lives of the prisoners, and he's not just out for his own self-interest or for profit, even though there are some perks to his power. And we also gain a sense of Andy's persistence. And this is on page 50 when he's describing his attempt to maintain funds or collect funds to improve the library. So he's talking to Stamus at this point, and Stamus, who's the warden at the time, he says he views prisoners as the scum of the earth. So he told Andy that maybe he'd been a banker on the outside, but that part of life has been receding rapidly into his past, and he had better get hold of the facts of prison life. As far as that bunch of jumped-up Republican Rotarians in Augusta were concerned, there were only 3 viable expenditures of the taxpayers' money in the field of prisons and corrections. Number 1, more walls. Number 2 was more bars. And number 3 was more guards. As far as the state senate was concerned, Stamus explained, the folks in Thomaston and Shawshank and Pittsville and South Portland were the scum of the earth. They were there to do hard time, and by God and Sonny Jesus, it was hard time they were going to do. So Andy, when faced with this obstacle, this opposition that viewed the purpose of prison as just being more walls, more bars, and more guards, so they're not even concerned at all with the lives of the prisoners themselves. To them, they're just the scum of the earth. Andy smiles at Stamus and asks Stamus what would happen to a block of concrete if a drop of water fell on it once every year for 1,000,000 years. So this is Andy's character, sort of in a nutshell. He is a very determined man, and he is not afraid of sort of persisting at a goal over any length of time in order to achieve his dream. And he is determined to improve the library, and that's exactly what he does. So in this way, we get a glimpse of what motivates Andy's character, and his motivation is really to help improve the lives of the men. He sees them as humans first, not just prisoners, and they're not just the scum of the earth, the way that the prison system seems to view them. He wants to improve their lives, and he does this through the prison library. So in this way, the library is a central symbol in the film, and it reflects Andy's dedication, his determination to achieve his dreams. It also is connected to this idea of freedom. You think about a library and all the books, and in the film he brings music in. So you can read a text and be transported to another world. So it's a way of escape in a kind of figurative way. It is an escape in terms of your imagination. So opening up the world for these men who are stuck in this prison. It also represents his sort of overcoming of obstacles. So he is, in opposition to the rest of the prison system, the Senate, that views the men as unworthy, or that they don't have any sort of potential to get to improve their lives, and he succeeds in overcoming that obstacle. And it also represents this central idea of hope. So he has hope through this library. He's giving hope to the men by educating them and allowing some of them to sort of transcend the oppression and this life of incarceration that would otherwise sort of be inhibiting them, their lives. So he's giving them hope for the future through the library itself. So one of the young men that Andy is trying to help improve his life is Tommy Williams, who enters into Shawshank at the age of 27. And this is 1962 when he enters. Tommy is a young man who's married, and he has a young child. So he has a lot going for him on the outside, and Andy wants to see him improve his life and maybe escape that cycle of sort of repeat offender and being in and out of prisons all your life. So he is trying to help Tommy gain his high school diploma and sets him up to take his equivalency test. And it is through Tommy that Andy is also given hope of a possible retrial, right? So Tommy comes into the prison, and he informs Andy that he had spent time in a different prison, and his cellmate there, Elwood Blatch, had confessed to a murder and then spoken about another man who had been framed for this crime and sentenced. So Tommy is talking about Andy's own case, and this other criminal, Elwood Blatch, is the one who is revealed to actually have been guilty of murdering Andy's wife and her lover. And this is the crime that Andy has been sort of framed for. So Tommy comes in with all this information, and immediately Andy is sort of taken back, right? He is shocked, and this is described on page 61, the effect that this information has on his mind. He said it was as if Tommy had produced a key which fit a cage in the back of his mind, a cage like his own cell, only instead of holding a man, that cage held a tiger, and that tiger's name was Hope. Williams had produced the key that unlocked the cage, and the tiger was out willy-nilly to roam his brain. So all of this hope, this pent-up hope that Andy had of possibly gaining his freedom, is unleashed with this new information. Andy believes that, with this new testimony, with Tommy's testimony, he could probably get a retrial and open the case up again and eventually regain his freedom. So he would no longer be a prisoner. And then we have the opposition. Samuel Norton at this point is dependent on Andy for his financial knowledge, and he is the main obstacle in between Andy's pursuit of a retrial, and he adamantly opposes any attempts that Andy makes in order to pursue his case and get it reopened. I actually really like the way that the treatment of Tommy Williams' character within the film version. They do a little bit more with his character to develop the corruption of the warden. In the book, he's just reassigned to another prison, and in that way he sort of makes a deal, and Andy's no